Okay, I'm talking.
Yeah, but you're talking really loud.
So shut the fuck up.
No, but you don't have to talk so loud, though. Just
Here, I'll
while you're
turn.
blasting it. I can feel the percussion from it. The pops are popping my tympanic membranes.
I wonder why.
That's good right there.
Right here?
Yeah, that's good. I feel good. Do I sound good to you?
You sound good.
Yeah, you sound good too.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow, we both seem very pleased how good we sound.
We are pleased.
We are very.
This is a great intro.
This is really good. You should keep this one.
Now that we're happy with each other, we should probably get into this thing. I always tell people that you're more capable than you think you are.
Be original. Don't be like the guy on the radio. Great music will prevail. So I would tell people, make great music. Don't make other people's music. Make your own.
Money don't make me, so I just say, you know what? I just gotta be happy I'm alive. Build your team. Look around you. Figure out all these parts, because you can't do it all yourself. You're gonna burn out and get tired.
Never burn any bridges. You never know who someone's gonna be.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
Welcome back to the Indie Playbook presented by Focused Noise. Once again, I'm your host, Eric Abel, and today's guest is Creed Bratton, who you know as the lovable, enigmatic character from The Office. But what some of you may not know is he was also a founding member of the band The Grassroots. He was a huge rock star back in his heyday, and they were best known for the hits Live for Today and Midnight Confessions. And if you enjoy this interview, I want you to please subscribe on the podcast app and check out some of our past interviews, which you can check out at focusednoise.com. We really get into it with a number of heavyweights in the independent world of the music business. So, a lot of gems on there. But in today's episode, Creed starts out by telling us his unique story of dropping out of college when he was just about to graduate and traveling around the world, almost being killed while hitchhiking across northern Africa. And the funny thing is, I've been traveling with Creed for the past 3 to 4 years, so he knows I've heard these stories, and he stops me about 10 minutes into the interview. He's bored from having to regurgitate the same story that he's already told 1,000 times. But I told him to keep going because I thought it was important for listeners to have some context, especially since after he left the Grassroots, it was 25 years until he landed the gig on The Office. So how many people do you know that have had 2 successful careers so far apart? And what did he do to earn a living during that time? How did he keep the faith? I really thought all of his answers, they could be applied to our own lives. Because we all go through low periods, so it's just important to keep the faith and keep going and believe in yourself and believe in your art or your abilities or whatever it is that keeps you going. And you'll probably notice we get a little loose as the show goes on. And whiskey might have had something to do with that, but maybe not. I don't know. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope you get something out of this interview with my good friend Creed. So I'd like to welcome my good friend Creed Bratton to the show.
I'm kind of, wouldn't say filled with trepidation, but I'm curious to see we've been on the road together for like almost 3 years now, it seems like that, playing around. And so I'm kind of curious. This is his maiden voyage here on his new podcast. So
let's see where it goes.
Let's just see where it goes,
I want you to know I won't be asking about The Office or the Grassroots.
Or music.
Or music or acting. Or television.
Good.
Or
That's
acting.
perfect. That's perfect. That's just perfect, Squash. We basically discussed that.
All right. I've got a question for you.
Yes.
So let's say you're out and about at a party.
Uh-huh.
You meet a 60-year-old debauched divorcee,
you said
right?
60, right? Yeah, yes.
60,
uh-huh.
right around, in the sweet spot.
For me, yeah.
Right? She asks you what you do, and you have to give her your elevator pitch and close the deal. What do you tell her you do?
I still tell her that I'm searching for my purpose, basically. And then I get this puppy dog look. I look off and I kind of just questioning, like the artist, like someone from Lord Byron's period,
Right.
If I had a velour jacket, I'd probably ruffle it a bit, and just say, I'm just still searching for my place, my dear.
Like the sad artist.
The sad, misunderstood artist, yeah.
Does that work?
No, not at all.
Well, then maybe you need a new elevator pitch.
I probably do. But that's what I've been doing so far.
Right. So we've gotten to know each other pretty well.
And
but
we have.
I do want to go back, give people a little history. You grew up in Coors, California.
Coors, yep.
Coors.
Yep.
Right. I already messed it up.
Well, you can just remember it is because the fine gold was a town above, and where the little particles of gold were, and when you went down the creek, the larger nuggets would keep going down further down the creek, and when they ended up was a town of coarse gold. Coarse are bigger pieces of gold.
Wow!
And it was in the 1850s. It was a major gold mining place.
So there was a lot of money there at that point.
At that time, when they cleaned it out, of course, and then we came along.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history, yes, exactly.
Well, speaking of that, so a lot of people kind of grew up with a rough upbringing in the area, like a lot of your friends and things like that. And many of them didn't make it out of that area. How did that affect you and put you on a path to your success?
Well, you don't know that at the time because you're young.
Right.
So you don't know that these people aren't going to make it out. You probably think a lot of people are doing far better than you'll ever do. Now,
right.
In retrospect, it turned out really good, of course.
Right.
But at the time, I just know that I was bored, and I needed some more stimulation, intellectual stimulation.
Right.
Yeah. And I didn't see. I didn't find the people I needed to articulate my dreams to there in that little town.
And so your first move outside of the town was to go to college?
I went to college. I had a swim scholarship. Went to college at Sequoias. And then that also took me up to Sacramento State. Mm-hmm. And then both of those were still swim scholarships and water polo.
Right.
And I was lucky at that time that happened, because people were getting basketball stuff and football. But at that time, they started initiating stuff like that, track and field, swimming. I don't know if that still goes on, where you get work scholarships, but it helped me get out of that little town of 300. It was only 300 people when I was there too. So it was a really tiny town.
I mean, so was there a swimming team in high school, or how did you?
Yeah. I went to high school at Sierra Joint Union High School, and there was like 500 people at that school. There was far more in the high school than there were in my town. Right. And I traveled over 2 hours there and 2 hours back on a bus every day, 4 to 5 days a week. And we're so far away up in the mountains that there was a dormitory, and it was put up by the Edison Company. And we had everything. They had a lot of money. So I all of a sudden I realized, wow, this maybe a teacher would be good. I was thinking about being a veterinarian for a while. Right. I thought that would be an idea, but I always played guitar, so music was the thing, and acting, of course. Right. And then you had a professor tell you to drop out of school right before you were going to graduate college, basically. That's correct. I had 8 units left to go, and my drama coach and professor at Sacramento State, one day he didn't say really drop out. He said, you just need a life experience. I was complaining about that I couldn't seem to get my head around these parts. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what to do, and I was frustrated. And he said, well, you're just young. He said, you just need life experiences. So he thought, he kind of casually said, well, maybe Europe, after college or Europe or something like that. And I thought, well, why wait? Right. I'm not really
so he
enjoying
didn't
this.
tell you drop out now.
No, he did not tell me to drop out. I just jumped right to the finished product. I said, hey, I'm blowing this pop stick. and I had an Austin Healey, a 54 Austin Healey, a really cool sports car. Mm-hmm. And I sold it. And I got on a boat out of New Orleans. I hitchhiked with my buddy, paid for his trip over there, arrived in Europe with $25 in my pocket. That was it. Wow. I had $25 in my pocket when I left. And but the trip was paid for, and that ended up we drank it all up, of course.
What do you think $25 would be worth today?
I don't know. What do you think? 75?
Okay.
Maybe, It seemed to buy enough whiskey to keep us going.
Right. That's all you need sometimes.
Yeah. And people were taking care of us too, because we were,
Yeah. So knowing all you know now, if someone was in a similar predicament that came up to you and asked you for advice, would you tell them drop out of school and go see the world? If they were an aspiring actor or musician and they're, in college but not really finding their way in college, trying to figure it out?
Well, I think I would have to have take the responsibility for. It's more dangerous out there now. And I was, I had a vision. I had a fire up my ass, an impulse that I just followed this inner voice. Now, my inner voice might not be this other person, so it wouldn't be my, no, I would say they'd have to find their own path. That was my path.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't think you can specifically copy someone else's blueprint?
No, I don't. You?
I mean, I think that there's something to it where you could at least take pieces of something someone's done and put your own spin to it. But if you feel like, oh, that might be a good idea for me.
I think if somebody was in college and realized that they don't need a degree, because I didn't need a degree. I was a drama major, music minor.
Right.
And I didn't need it. I just didn't need. What was I going to? What is it? Unless I was going to teach.
Right.
No, I feel you got to trust your gut. And at that time, this I saw it very clearly in my mind's eye. This is what I'm going to do. It was very clear for me. I'm going to get over there. I think to go. I don't think people should get out of college and travel around for a while.
Yeah.
I definitely think everybody should go and see the world if they can and get out there. Maybe don't go to the dangerous places that I went to, because I was over there without any money, sleeping on the side of the road in North Africa and the Middle East and stuff. It was dangerous.
Right.
And I could have died easily. A couple of times it was close. But
what was the closest experience you had?
Oh, probably Morocco. Little town, guy pulled a knife on me, because he was guiding this girl from Georgia, and I took her back told her that she was in danger and had her stay with me, and I took away his livelihood. So he came after me after a club one night with a knife and threatened me, and I had to run through the Medina in the middle of the night. I was stoned out of a place in Algeria for pushing some people. I got in an accident in Gibraltar where they drugged me out of a car and they almost beat me to death. And the cops came and pulled the crowd off of me, We think we were involved with some spies going and coming from a youth hostel, and in Czechoslovakia at that time, I believe.
Right.
And what else? And just sometimes you'd be out there like going for 4 days without eating. Mm-hmm. There'd be days and days where I wouldn't have any food, sitting on the side of the road, because a lot of times it wasn't like you put out your thumb and they're going to pick you up.
Right.
It's dangerous.
Did you look at a place too, hitchhiking on the side of the road? Then?
Well, you'd find places where cars would slow down, would have to slow down, and if there was a rest stop or stuff, that would be great, But on just a one-lane road going across North Africa, there's not a lot to choose from. So it was. I think we were lucky too, I was lucky to get through it like that,
Right.
And again, I wouldn't want to put a young lady, in that situation. Or let's say a guy who wasn't, I got a little sand, I was about 6 foot, about 200 pounds,
Right.
And I ended up 145 at the end of 2 years. But at the time, I didn't take shit off people, and stood up for myself. But if you were if you were weak, they'll eat you up there, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's dangerous. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you formed the Young Californians over there?
I was, my friend Mickey Miguel, we were there 8 days, and we were up we hitchhiked from Venice. We actually did hitchhike. We got on a train and hid in the bathrooms and stuff and got up to Copenhagen. And he heard his girlfriend talking. He heard a male voice in the background on a phone call, and his girlfriend was supposed to be staying with him, and so he waiting for him, I should say. And so he had his parents send him money, and he left me there after 8 days, and just went home, and yeah.
And you had no money at that point?
No money at all.
Right.
So I went down and got a job in Munich, and because I spoke a little German, because I'd studied that in college. It's a hard language, by the way, German. And I was picking up my mail at the American Express, and I saw two guys playing guitar and a banjo, and they were playing Greenback Dollar. And I grabbed the guitar and said, "Here, no, you missed. You know, it's this way. You know, here's the riff." And they went, "Oh, you should come and join us." And so next day I did.
And that was the band.
That was the band. Yeah, that was the
Wow.
band. Yeah,
That's crazy.
that was the band.
And then, so Warren Entner. Okay, we took a little break. Creed's dog had to go to the bathroom. Or at least that's what we're saying.
That's what we're saying. That's our story.
Yeah.
Okay, so Young Californians was Greg Fitzpatrick and Lee Zimmerman. He was the banjo player. Greg was the guitar player. I was the actually lead guitar player. We traveled from Munich all the way through Europe, and we played in the streets, in the railway stations, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, France, Spain, Portugal. We got mobbed in Portugal. We ended up down in Gibraltar.
Right.
And we went across to North Africa. And we had to separate. We hitchhiked all the way across North Africa. We did shows for the Mobil Oil clamps in 500 miles out in the Sahara Desert. I mean,
Right.
Amazing stuff. Played for the king of Egypt at the time. We made money too. Some like Switzerland and Germany, we got paid pretty good. We were barely able to stay alive in the Arab countries, but we got over to Beirut, and we worked at a brothel called the Kit Kat Club, and it was a brothel, and there was a club there. And we played there. We went down through Syria and Jordan into trying to get into Israel. We couldn't get in, didn't have money. Went back up, worked in Lebanon for a while, came down again, and then we got through the Mandelbaum Gate, and we stayed there over 4 months. We worked on a film called Cast a Giant Shadow. I went from there and had a love affair with the director's daughter. We ended up in the Greek islands. She had to go back to school. I had to reconnect with my boys in the band again in Munich for our second Oktoberfest. So then I hitchhiked through the Red Curtain countries at that time, Romania, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, through East Germany. And that was kind of scary too. East Germany, if you can imagine.
Sounds scary.
It was all gray. I don't remember any colors at that time. I just remember thinking everything's gray. And kind of really crazy, scary, and
So it was like the black and white pictures you see now, but
yeah,
in real life.
Yeah, but in real life, it was dark, and you could see the oppression in people's eyes. They were not happy campers. But we played there again, and then we ended up in England, and hitchhiked up through Scotland. We went into Ireland, and Trinity College. We played there. They went back. Greg went up to Sweden. Leroy went back to the States. I stayed in England, trying to get work, playing music, and then finally, as I told you before, 145 pounds. Went back, got together with Warren Entner, who I'd met in Israel at a folk festival. He and I started playing. We wrote a couple of songs together. Played for a year with a group called the 13th Floor. Played around all over in the Valley and in L.A. areas, and then we got a chance to become the Grassroots, and then we recorded Live for the Day, Midnight Confessions.
1, 2, 3, 4. Sha la 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 la, live for today. Sha la 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 la, live for today. And don't worry about tomorrow. Hey.
I did 4 albums with that band, and toured for quite a few years with them, and of course we didn't make any money,
Right.
Because the Dunhill Records was a pretty rough bunch of cats, but nobody made any money. They took the money from Steppenwolf and Three Dog Night, Mamas and Papas. Anybody in any of those bands will tell you what Dunhill Records was about.
Right.
So I don't need to get into it now.
Yeah, and real quick with Warren Entner, obviously he went on to a successful career even in management.
Oh my gosh,
music,
huge,
managed
yeah.
Rage Against the Machine and Deftones and
Faster Pussycat.
right. So he's obviously had a business sense and a good sense for the music.
Yep.
What do you think he saw in you initially that made him want to work with you?
I don't know. I think that's because we were simpatico. You know, we were comfortable with each other. We still are.
Right.
We still friends.
Right.
Still see each other. He's definitely a far better businessman than I am. You know, and he's proved that. You know, with his success there.
Was he like the businessman in the group back then?
No. At the time, we were all just kind of like very, very young, wide-eyed, and I definitely think he'd been to UCLA, so he had probably more input from different people, you know.
Oh, okay.
And he'd also played with Phil Spector in a band, you know, and so he was more savvy with that stuff, you know. But we were still enamored by it. My God, we were in our 20s getting to play music in front of people. It was a summer of love. It was pretty amazing, you know.
Right.
Pretty amazing times. But then finally I was frustrated because I wasn't getting to play. None of us were getting to play on the records, you know.
Right.
And I'd done some stuff. Warren and I had played on some. We played on the Feelings album. All of us played that. It wasn't as big a success as they would like.
Right.
So they went back to the Wrecking Crew, and I worked with. I definitely did some sessions with Hal Blaine and Larry Knechtel and stuff, and I got to sing some of my songs, you know.
Right.
And but they asked to find out if I was frustrated, and I said, you know, I am. So I decided to leave.
Right.
And then I went right back to studying acting.
Yeah.
And luckily that panned out, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's to me the most interesting part about your life is after you leave a very successful band and you're a celebrity and you basically from 69 till like 2005
about 70,
until
about 70, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what can you say about your perseverance and how you got through all that time and you just kind of kept pushing? And did you have a vision of like what was going to happen, or did? No,
it's what an artist does, and you know this because of your work. Mm-hmm. You love it. You love it. I love acting. I love music. So I've always written songs. Mm-hmm. I've always been in plays. Now, even though it looks like there was nothing going on, you can look on IMDb. There's a lot of films there.
Right.
Little parts here and there. I have a lot of different bands that I was in. A lot of different bands struggling. They just didn't make it, you know. But I was working.
Right.
I just didn't. People didn't know what I was doing, but I was still doing it.
Right. And doing some of the little parts, but also you were working catering and
I was working as catering. I was working as a stand-in. I worked in construction. I worked as a guard over at Universal for a while, carrying a .38 around, you know, in the middle of the night, guarding the sets and stuff, you know.
Were any of those jobs ever deflating to you? Did you ever?
You can, if you see somebody you know from the business, that's hard.
Right.
That's really hard.
It's a little embarrassing.
And you have to have pretty thick skin, and you have to see. And I guess there's a point where, you know, like you said before, was there a vision? Yes, there was in the back of my mind a harbinger of things to come. Mm-hmm. I think if I had felt that I was spinning my wheels, I wouldn't have continued. Right. But I always believed in my talent. Right. And I always believed that I belonged up there entertaining people. Yeah. I wouldn't have done it otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you take us to a time where you really felt like you'd hit rock bottom, and what did you do to pull yourself out of that?
I think one time I was living with this woman and up in Hollywood Hills, and I was recording. I had been recording with Henry Louis, who was Joni Mitchell's producer at the time. Mm-hmm. And I was recording some stuff, and I thought it sounded really good, and everyone had heard it. It was spinning and reeling at that time, you know. Mm-hmm. Please Let the Telephone Ring. These songs that I recorded, and several songs with Henry, you know, over at A&M too. Now Henry he told me right off the bat. He said, "I believe in you. I like your voice, and I like your songs a lot." He says, "I'll record you," but he said, "But I'm not going to go do the business side of it. You have to get somebody." And I'm not a really business. I don't have the savvy. Right. I don't have that. So I'd go to people and say, "Here it is. What do you think?" You know, you're
bringing your demo around to people.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And it was really frustrating because it wouldn't be so bad if I was out there and working, that didn't bother me as much. But when I had something that I thought was good and it wasn't being recognized, that was really hard. So at this time, my girlfriend, Barbara, she decides one day, she says, I'm leaving and going to live with back to my mother's down in La Jolla. And so there I'm at this place. There's only a couple of weeks left on the rent, and I didn't have any money. I had a little Morris Minor, and I packed my guitars and my suitcase in the back of that little Morris Minor, and I had this horrible pain in my head and my shoulder, and I was just feeling like, and I was all about ready to cry. I was just thinking, I don't know why, how long is it going to take? How long is this going to be? And I was driving up to Course Gold again to go back up there and just stay for a few weeks and try to get my head back on. And I heard the Rolling Stones, Street Fighting Man, came on the radio. And I started banging my fist and just screaming at the sky, you know. And I got excited again. I said, no, I'm not going to give up. And I didn't, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true. And I get a little emotional about that moment. But if I saw the Keith or Mick, I would say, that song saved my life. Because it did at that time.
Right.
The spirit of rock and roll keeps you going.
Isn't it amazing to think the power of music? And I mean, your music may have done the same thing for someone at some point.
We had not my personal music, but the songs I recorded with the Grassroots. We had people come up to us with "Live for Today," saying that song had a profound change on them. You know, especially soldiers coming back from Vietnam said that song got them through some hard stuff.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and then of course your story about getting on The Office is all available for people, so we don't need to go over that.
We can use it, but on that note, though, the one great thing, besides doing all the comedy and having the great writers and working with that amazing cast, was at the final thing, the great little bookend, the great little tag on that little run, was they allowed me to play my song "Lift All the Faces" in the finale. Right. And as we know, that song moves people a lot, during my live shows. So I felt that I have got redemption later in life, you know, with that song and with my response with the performances, you know. Yeah. And the music keeps getting better too. It hasn't stopped.
That's true. That's true. Well, and there's a couple moments with The Office where you manifested destiny, and I think both of us really believe in creating your own path. And the fact that you basically created your character, obviously you made the tape and showed it to them, and then to be able to play your song at the very end. It's pretty amazing.
Well, during the table read, when I saw that they said Creed's going to play his song, I started. I was crying. You know. It was emotional. It was a huge thing. It was so, and I'm always be grateful to Greg Daniels for that. You know.
Right.
And of course, my fellow writers and my fellow castmates. You know, it was a blessed. I hate that word because I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
It's kind of tired and trite, but in this sense, for me, it truly was a life-changing moment. You know.
Right. Well. You hear Creed's dog in the background a little bit. So obviously you're a man of action. And why do you think people in general are afraid to take action and make things happen for themselves?
That's a good. I think some people have touched upon this. For myself, I believe it's not as much fear of failure as it's fear of success. That for me, like my songs, what if I get my songs out there, what if that songs at that time when I was down and out, the stuff that I did with Henry, what if it got out there, was played on the radio, but wasn't accepted, that no one liked it? That's the thing that would scare me. Not that I didn't get an opportunity, but that what I did was not good enough.
Yeah.
That would be frightening.
Right.
And I think that's probably the double-edged sword that people deal with, you know?
Yeah. And you know, it's funny, as an artist, you might read 100 great reviews and then there's one negative review and you just focus on that one.
Isn't that true? It's everybody,
so
everybody,
bad.
But you hear that all the time with people, you know?
And And I don't know if it's, I mean, if you can take it as constructive criticism and see, oh, maybe they have a point, then it could actually be helpful to you. But I think it's hard because I think a lot of these writers don't understand how much blood, sweat, and tears you put into your art.
No.
Like they have no idea. It's so easy for them to write a 1,000 word essay about the album, but they don't know that you put 3 years of your life into it, and it's it's emotional stuff, it's personal stuff that you're dealing with.
Songs are very, very emotional. There's a lot of school of thought that some actors don't see their movies. They shoot the film and they never watch it after that. Some people don't watch their TV shows. Some guys record songs and that's it.
Right.
I myself don't listen to my songs much at all.
It gets you get
because
tired
I've already
of
heard it enough.
Right, and then you have to perform them.
And you have to perform too. But I do certainly love the recording process. That's a big thrill.
Yeah. Do you like recording better than you like performing live?
No. I love the recording process. I also love the feedback when it's everything sounding good,
right,
and the audience is responding. It's like it's a difference between knowing you've got a good performance with a camera there in a film or a television show, you've nailed it, and the same thing being on stage when you've got that visceral live feedback from an audience. It's different.
Right.
A lot of people say it's better, but I don't think it's just different.
Right. So quickly going back to The Office, just because we got away from it, Greg Daniels, who obviously gave you a huge shot there. What was the biggest thing you learned from him? Because he's obviously a legend in the game and has done so much and is just so successful.
I never saw Greg roll over with a belly laugh, He's very cerebral.
Right.
And I think that he's got this overview. He's so smart. There's definitely one of these guys when you're in the room. Greg's the smartest guy in the room, without a doubt. And I think he sees the comedy grid, how it all works together so well that he's not going to get caught up in the moment and be run by emotion.
Right.
He knows what he's doing. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
I think he's proven that a few times.
Exactly.
And then what was the biggest takeaway with working with such a talented cast and just everyone involved in the show?
For me, it was just getting out of my own way and accepting the Creed character, just like everyone else did, getting there with that family and letting it go. Mm-hmm. Never, ever trying to make a meal out of a line. Just we're there. We thought the camera, it was, because you never knew when the camera was on you. So you were always in character. You were as always real as possible. We were as real as possible in those characters. Yeah. And it was a team, working as a team. And I've carried that on. No matter what I'll do now as an actor, I'll get in there and just try to be part of the team and not go in there and say, well, I'm going to shine in this moment. No, I'm going to get in there and do my best to make the script the best it can be. If I'm playing with a bunch of people, I will do the best to make the song the best it can be. Not just try to shine.
Right.
Because that's an ego, and that'll kill you every time.
Yeah. So as a multifaceted artist, how important are multiple income streams? Getting back to the business part of this.
Well, I think if one is not pulling in enough, it's a good thing.
It's helpful to have a few talents.
I mean, it is, but there's people that say jack of all trades, master of none. That is a thing that you have to consider too. Am I spreading myself out too thin? In my condition, people ask me that all the time. Well, don't you think you'd be better if you were just an actor or a musician? Which one do you like more? And I said, well, I've always done both.
Right.
So I can't really tell you because I've always done both.
Right.
And I have no other way to look at it. So I can't give you an answer on that one because there's no way for me to compare.
Okay, well, which income streams have you been able to take advantage of?
Years? Acting and music. Both. I've got money through the grassroots because of the live performances, Right. And ever since Universal took over from ABC Dunhill, then I've received money from, not a huge amount of money, but some
royalties.
From royalties and stuff like that. When I get songs that I've written in film or television, I get paid for that. And that keeps coming in. And after a while, after several years of stuff, it starts adding up.
Right.
And we know we're killing it, you and I, when we go out on the road right
Killing
now.
it.
Just making money hand over fist, right?
If you could only see the mansion we're sitting in. Right
Oh
now.
my gosh, it's quite something. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the great thing is we're having so much fun on the road. I mean, it's been 3 years and it really has been a blast. And one of the reasons I wanted to sit down with you is because I've had friends who are like, it'd be great to see a reality show of what you guys do. And I mean, I'm like, we're in the car most of the time. It's not as exciting.
We're
as
listening
it might
to
seem.
Tim Ferriss.
Yeah,
folks.
we're listening to podcasts and
over and over.
and eating eggs with spinach and
lots of eggs,
chicken
with spinach,
salads,
and chicken tacos, and chicken salads. And
right.
Eating healthy, exercising. But every day at 10 o'clock when we get in the car, Eric and I critique the show for the night before.
Right.
We make notes. We buff the patina, as it were.
That is the sweet spot, that like 10 to almost noon, where I think our creativity seems to kind of spark. The coffee's kicking in.
I think most people
moving
are
on the road.
awake at that time, don't you?
Yeah. Do you think, like, if we're not together, what's your most creative time? Is there a certain time?
It's
of
the same thing
Yeah.
too. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, at night, there might be a little moment where the what's the word I want to say? It's not the muse. It's what the muse does. It's affluous. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter. Some nights in the middle of the night, or some nights you're sitting there watching TV and you get inspired,
Right.
or you're out taking a walk. I'll charge in and grab that guitar.
Yeah.
Or I'll write. And I still right now. I'll not only will I write music songs, and I write screenplays. You know, I write treatments for films.
Right.
You know, it's just whatever comes through, wherever the muse graces me with.
Right.
I think that artists shouldn't also put themselves in a corner and say this is all I do, because there are Renaissance folk like myself who do
Right.
lots of different things. You know.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. When the inspiration strikes, you just have to take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've worked with a number of successful people over the years, obviously more successful than myself.
I don't know about that.
No, I'm pretty successful.
You
but,
are.
Who's the most successful person you've worked with, in your opinion?
Wow. Besides Greg Daniels?
Let's go with another person, just because we already touched on
talked
him.
about it. It's like trying to say who's the best actor.
Well, okay,
It's like trying to say that. And I know what you want is success is not related to me by I don't relate it to how much money and how many films you've made,
Right.
what music, what have you done. There's people out there that just to have their life. You know what? Jeff Bridges, you know, and I watch his career, and here's a guy that can do big, huge films, you know. He's got a great family, you know. Mm-hmm. He's got support from this wonderful family. The Bridges family are great because I know them, you know.
Right.
And he and Bo both, you know. They go off and they have vacations. They do little movies. They don't have to do all blockbusters to make a lot of money, and they can go and do these small films sometimes just because it feeds their creativity.
Right.
To be able to do stuff like that, and then still have your feet on the ground, and be a guy, and not be filled with yourself. That would be success, you know.
I like that.
And,
it's more of a well-rounded approach.
A well-rounded approach, you know. I remember when I worked on Mask with Sam Elliott, I paid close attention to. He was a great guy. He was very gracious. The scene I did with him, and then we sat around with him and talked, and I watched how he interacted with the rest of the crew, and I saw the respect he got from people. And I thought, okay, this is how you handle people, and I learned a lot just for the few days I was there, you know.
I was actually going to ask you a little bit about how people approach you, because now that you're recognizable and you're a celebrity, a lot of people come up to you, and obviously I see the different conversations and kind of what interests you. But just for people who don't know you, how do you recommend people approach you if they want to have a thoughtful conversation?
Well, in deference, with their eyes down, kind of genuflecting and fawning.
Right,
You know,
right.
that always works really well with me. No,
Just
it's
sweat
like
coming off their
like,
hands.
It's like the New York approach, said, hey, loved your work, loved your work. And if they've got a question, if they come up and the energy is good and they've got a question about something that I've done and I feel like it, I'll discuss it with them, I'm not one of these people who leave me alone, because without the fans, without the people who appreciate your work, what do you got, I'll talk with everybody,
Right.
I don't want to come up there, though, and have somebody just blow smoke up my old tired tush,
Right.
I don't need
Right.
that. I don't need that, and I also don't need... what are you going to do now that your career's over? Well, it's that I heard that too much in the grassroots. It's all over now, and I knew it wasn't. I knew it wasn't.
You had your whole life in front of you.
Yeah, and now that the show's over, there's still people taking up that banner again. Well, what are you going to do now? It's all. What are you talking about? It's only been a couple of years.
Right. Right.
You know.
Well, I also, knowing you, I know that you seem more engaged when people come up to talk to you about music than The Office specifically.
Well, I do. Because that's what when we're out on the road, that's what I'm doing. I'm playing.
Right.
I'm playing my music, and it's
Right.
personal. But if I get together with a bunch of people discussing actors and choices and things like that, and I get excited about that too.
Yeah.
But the people that come up on the street aren't going to be talking about that stuff. you
Right.
know?
Right.
So generally, it's going to be musical questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So the nice thing about your brand, and we've been working together for a while, is that I think that, a lot of people don't really know who you are. You're kind of an enigma. They don't know who's the real Creed, who's the Creed on The Office.
Right.
And we kind of on purpose don't really let people into that.
Right.
But in terms of branding, I wanted to know, what's the most interesting thing you've seen an artist do to brand themselves?
Well, actually, they brand themselves. I saw a cowboy actor one time was sitting there.
Truly
right there.
brand himself.
He truly actually had the spoker there for a cowboy, and he looked around at everybody. He was drunk. He
Right.
just took it up and looked at everybody and just put it on his chest, and he branded himself. So that was probably the most interesting branding I've seen.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get a little bit into the positive and negative habits that artists can get into. First of all, just let me into my listeners that half the things you say are completely bullshit, maybe?
No. Not at all.
But the great thing is you've got so many stories that are so out there, but a lot of them are real, like really happened to you.
The ones that you'll bust me on will be true.
Right.
It's the ones
you'll be like, really?
The ones that sound right and you let slide through, that's the bullshit.
Right. The first time when we were out actually in Boston is when you just kept getting me like over and over.
Oh,
like,
it was so easy.
I was so easy, and it just took me a while to be like, oh, he's really fucking with me.
You think you're over it now?
I think so.
Yeah.
No?
No, well, a little bit, yeah.
Usually
you're much better.
Okay.
You're much better.
All right, good.
Much
I'll
better.
take that credit.
No, I'll give you that,
Yeah.
But then again, that's the brand. That's the Creed brand.
Exactly.
That's exactly what they want. If I just sit there and this is about as straight as I'm going to be right here talking to you right now.
Right.
If I'm up on stage, whatever craziness comes through, it's going to be put out there for their enjoyment.
Yeah.
And they can't look. It's not lying. I'm not lying, folks. I'm acting.
Right. But they can't, you see it on their faces too. The crowd's like, they can't stop smiling.
Yeah.
It's just it's a great vibe at your shows because people are just smiling.
Well, that's because my fly is
having-
open generally.
There's that too.
There's that, yeah.
And we make sure that
That
like
part of the
before
deal.
you go on stage.
Is my
like,
fly open?
Is my water on stage? Is my fly open?
You go,
Okay,
yep,
good. I'm
let's
good to
let's
go.
go. Yeah. Because you know why? It pays to advertise.
It does.
You told me that.
I did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, I told you that.
So just, getting into positive and negative habits that an artist can get into. I wanted to talk about one specifically a little bit, which is drug use. Can we get into that a little bit? Just a little or no?
I don't know.
All right, so let's skip it.
Yeah.
So how about a healthy lifestyle? Can we get into that?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
This piques your interest a
Yes,
little more.
It does.
The younger Creed might have been more into the drugs, but this one's more into the healthy lifestyle.
I'm not saying that I didn't go to the other side of the veil.
Right.
as rock stars do, you know.
Yes.
You have to go there because that's, grassroots.
Right.
You're going to do that stuff, you know.
Right.
And artists do that.
Yeah.
That's what artists are about. They take chances and they experiment.
Right.
Given that, I'm certainly not going to be one to talk right now and advocate that for young kids.
Right.
Because, again, they have to choose that on their own, you know. I'm not going to say, would you recommend it? No, I'm not going to say that at all.
Right.
So that's why I really don't want to discuss. I think it's a personal choice.
Yeah, yeah. And as you have become more healthy and kind of developed your healthy routine, can you just get into, like, let's start with your mornings. Like, how do you get up and get yourself going?
Well, very slowly, Eric.
Okay.
The creaking of the bones just takes forever. You know, I'm glad there's no mic around for that part. You know. Then the clearing of the throat, the hacking of the phlegm goes on for 20 minutes or so. Once that's out, you know, the flotsam and jetsam have left my upper respiratory system.
Yes.
I get on with the rest of the day.
Uh-huh.
I get up and I stretch. I get on my inverse gym, turn upside down.
Which I love.
And I hang there for, 5 to 7.5 minutes, you know.
Which I also hung on the first time I met you. I
Very
believe.
first day. Well, that's what I do.
Like within 3 minutes of meeting you, you're like, you want to hang upside down?
I have that Batman thing, you know. I say, hey, let's go back to my room and I'll put you upside down.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a weird perversion. It's just I love sharing.
You're
because it's healthy.
testing it
I'm
out.
also testing to see how people react to it. You handled it well.
Yeah.
You enjoyed it right away.
I did. I was like, this is great.
This is great.
I need one of these.
Most people love the inverse gym. It stretches your spine, gets blood into your brain. So that's how I start off the morning. I go down and I have half a cup of coffee, and that's it because I get jittery otherwise. And I'll put the other half into the refrigerator and have it later in the day. I'll check out the computer just for a little bit to see if there's any things I need, my date book to see if I've got any auditions today, what's the plan for the day. I will meditate for 20 minutes,
Right.
stretch out a little bit, have breakfast, and then I will, it depends if we're going on tour, I have to learn some lines for an audition, or I start running some songs. If I'm going to have to run some songs for recording, or I'll just have to touch up a few songs, just kind of get back to speed when I'm going on tour. Like a week before, every other day, I'll get to kind of run the show a little bit, you know. Especially
Right.
the ones that I felt was iffy last time, you know.
Right.
That generally takes a couple hours to do that kind of stuff like that. And then I will read. I'm a voracious reader. I'm reading a lot. Reading a book now called Angle of Repose by Wallace Stegner. It's a fantastic, fantastic book. I read a lot of sci-fi. I read a lot of Neil Stephenson and William Gibson. It's a very eclectic amount of stuff that I read.
Yeah.
Then I will go off and I will either do yoga. Now this is about 1:32. I will go down for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, take a nap. I don't have to set the alarm. I just do it. I go
Right.
boom, I'm out. And I've done that for the last 15 years or so, you know. I didn't used to need it. Also, one day I just started. I said, okay, this is what I need to
Right.
do this. And then I will, sometimes early in the morning before I even meditate, I'll get up and get in my pickup or scooter and head to clip the top of the hill and park and then climb up to Mulholland Drive on this real steep hill and get my heart pumping good. Or I'll go swimming for quite a bit of time. But I try to get cardio at least 20 minutes a day and take one day off a week. And then other times it's yoga, hiking, or swimming. Those are the things that I do to keep in shape. And by the way, at my age, that's what I've got to do.
And you have great energy. I'd say you have more energy than I do.
I might. I have
might.
a lot of more energy than most people that I'm in the studio with,
Right.
for sure.
Because you say you get up slowly, but usually I
that-
knock on your door and you're like, you ready to go?
No, I did that for comic relief.
No,
folks.
I
So
know, I
I
I'm
get
joking.
out. I get out of bed,
This
and
this
right
guy's
away
got
I'm
energy.
I'm into it. I've got energy, you know, and I eat well. I eat
Very well.
organically, and I also like to fast. By the way, too, for you people out there interested in this stuff, every other Sunday. Yes, Callie. Yes, Callie. That's the lab. It's actually my friend Maury's dog that I'm doggy sitting for. What, sweetie? All right. Hang on, we just got to pet the dog for a bit. It's kind of nice having a big dog around to pet. Yes. Anyway, so I fast. I go through like 36 hours.
What's the benefits of that? Because I've never actually fasted, but I'm intrigued when you tell me you do that.
That's the things. Some of that stuff that I would do during the sojourn into the wilderness when nothing was happening. Mm-hmm. I was experimenting with all this stuff. Meditating and eating well, yoga. And I would go off. I fasted one time for 14 days, one time for 10, one time for 11, in several 3-day, 4-day fasts. But now I got to have my energy up to do what I do.
Right.
So it gives your body a chance to not be digesting food all the time. Gives your organs a chance to heal. Otherwise, that stuff in there is always digesting food.
They're always working.
It's always working. So give it a chance to. And you come out of it feeling better. Your skin feels better. Your eyes are a little bit brighter, and you just feel within a day your memory feels better too. I swear by fasting.
Huh. And what about meditation? What's the biggest benefits for someone who's never tried meditating?
Well, it takes a long time to get to the point where there's nothing going on for 20 minutes. But you're just there at that spot. I was. Henry Louis' wife, Nato Louis, back in the day, she had been with the Maharishi, and this is my friend James Ralston and I. This is in the 70s, early 70s, and we were out in Malibu, and I was initiated into TM. I was given a mantra, and I've been doing that one ever since. Sometimes I go without, but most of the time I try to keep it up.
That's transcendental meditation.
Transcendental meditation, and I get in there, and it's now the point where I close my eyes and I go to the spot. And all of a sudden, boom, I have to have the alarm because I'll stay in there for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I have to, so 20 minutes, the little ding, 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 ding goes out, it gets louder, and I come slowly out of it, and I'm just, rejuvenated.
Yeah.
It clears everything out for me. I know a lot of people think, oh, it's weird and stuff like that, but hey, it works for me.
Right.
And it's proven, too, that relaxes you.
Well, there's been a lot of scientific studies. Not only does it relax you, but it helps with your clarity of thinking.
Absolutely.
It helps with your calmness in dealing with situations.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's, for people who haven't tried it, there's apps like Headspace and things like that kind of are beginners that could get you into it that I recommend checking out. I think it's worth it.
I remember, I forgot where it was that, Jeff Bridges was talking to me about his isolation tank. He was one of the first cats that I saw that had one of those. And,
yes.
And I think maybe it was after the Baker Boys, or I don't know what it was, on what movie I was working with Bo on. But I went and I started doing that, and that's something I like to do on occasion.
I've never done that one either.
You go into a tank, a saltwater solution, warm saltwater, body temperature, and with your goggles on and your ears plugged up, and you just lay in there. It's like being on in the womb kind of thing. It's very, very womb-like, and it's beyond meditation. You have to let go, though. You can't get freaked out or worried.
Right. So for claustrophobic people, it's
not
the way to go.
It's not good for claustrophobic people.
Is it one of those experiences where you kind of leave your body and
you can?
Right.
You can. Yeah.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I got to try that one next time.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another thing. So you're always trying to improve. Obviously, you are improving. Still improving. What's one habit that high achievers usually have that you've adopted into your own life?
Note taking. I wherever I am, it used to be that I carried a pad. I used to keep pads in my car,
right.
A little fanny pack with a pen. And now I have reading glasses, which I got to write this stuff down on. But now that I have my iPhone, I just go to notes.
Right.
But anything that I think, I'll remember that, you don't.
Yeah.
So it's amazing as a songwriter, you can be sitting there and you can be playing a song, and you realize I need to write this down, or I don't need to write it down. It's going to be one of those songs. Sometimes you'll just get one line, and you'll go, I'm going to continue on. And you'll forget that line,
right?
And you got to be able to discern between that's the one that's important. You get rid of the chaff, get rid of the stuff. Oh no, you get rid of all. So that's the one. There's the important. That's my theme,
right?
And write that one down, and then just make little notes before it and after it. This is where I'm going.
Right.
This is where I want to start out. This is where I'm going to end up, and this is how I'm going to end with this thing. But I have piles and piles of notes, and every once in a while I try to sit down. Well, I do. Every once in a while I'll sit down on my computer with my note files and stuff like that, and take up all the pieces of paper that I have around. And I've got, as you know, you've seen me on napkins and
I have.
and cards from the hotels and stuff. Writing, I put them all together and I write them all down, and then sometimes they'll become poems. Which I'm starting to write poetry now too.
Yeah.
I'm working with the guy Mike Bradford. We have a thing we're working on called the Hypnotronic, where I'm doing some spoken word stuff with his music, and that's a lot of fun. It's very hip, very hip stuff. But that becomes poetry, it becomes songs, and I just wrote a song recently called "Beneath the Water." I wrote the song, and I went, "Oh, it's this thing that happens sometimes where you'd see the big picture all at once. No time's gone by." Mm-hmm. The Germans say Gestalt. It means if you take a photograph with your mind, bam, you see the whole thing. And I went, and next morning, after I kind of let it germinate and slept on it, I set up and I wrote a 3-page treatment for the song. And it's a full-fledged movie.
Wow.
Yeah. And I haven't even shared that with you yet.
No.
I haven't shared that. That's not that far long ago, actually.
Yeah.
But that's starting to happen more because I do write cinematic stuff, and now I'm starting to take advantage of that. Now I've got to find the people who believe in me, because I'm not one to. I can't spend all my time just concentrating on that one thing.
Right.
I need here it is. This is my idea. I need somebody else to come along and take it and go with it.
Yeah.
Because I won't finish that.
Right.
I've tried this with other people, and it just ends up stumbling. I can finish songs. That other thing that writers do where they go off, they write 6-8 hours a day. No.
Yeah.
No.
Do you get bored by that?
I just don't know. I'm just not geared that way.
Right.
It's not bored. If I don't get bored writing songs. I don't get bored when I'm acting.
Yeah.
But if I sit down with something, I think what I do is I have an overview, and I get the gist of the whole thing real fast, and that's my talent.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. So how often do you set goals? Like big overarching goals?
Well, I've set major goals in my life that I have to be in control. That the general rule of thumb is that the tail doesn't wag the dog. Mm-hmm. That you get everything lined up. I have to see it in my mind's eye before I'll approach it and apply myself with physical labor.
Right.
I trust. These are just things that to write them down. At one time I probably did. Always trust my instincts. Always never doubt the little voice inside myself that tells me where I'm going. And if it says, if my mundane side says, no, if you keep plugging away here at this thing, it'll happen. But the little voice says, no, you're wasting your time. Then I'm going to listen to the little voice.
Right.
And so far it worked out. There was times with and drugs will kind of amplify your romantic aspects, and you start seeing this pie in the sky kind of thing,
Right.
And you got to keep your feet on the ground. You really have to do too. I say you can come up with great ideas, and you can get very creativity, but you got to have your feet on the ground to apply these things and bring these dreams to fruition.
Right.
I totally believe that's a fact.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's some people that can't do that. I know there are.
Yeah.
But I don't work that way.
Right. But so do you maybe like annually set goals, or is it something you've just kind of done sporadically throughout your life?
I think it's reinforcing your mindset every year to only do the honest stuff. That I don't accept parts that are I wouldn't say demeaning, because an actor's life's pretty demeaning anyway, because of silly things we do, but things that I don't lower the bar. I don't want to lower the bar, and luckily I don't have to now.
Yeah. All right, we're back. We had to take a little whiskey break this time.
Indeed.
We were having a good conversation. I just wanted to kind of clear up a little bit of a misnomer about your life. So obviously there was 30 years between the time you were in the Grassroots and on The Office.
Right.
And you didn't want people to think that you just got lucky and landed this role of playing yourself. So you obviously put in a lot of hard work.
Yes, you could say that indeed. I was in class working with groups, memorizing lines for a few days, and then putting up a scene and doing it in front of a class every week for a long period of time, and then working. There's a lot of movies. You can go on IMDb and see these films. None of them were huge. I think probably the biggest one I worked on was Mask. We mentioned Sam Elliott earlier and Cher. Mm-hmm. I played the ticket taker on that. And but I was doing all kinds of different stuff and always applying myself with my songs and my acting, because you can't stop playing guitar. You can't stop singing. You can't stop writing songs. You have to write bad songs to get to the good songs. You've got to do some bad performances and fall right on your face to get to the point where you go, okay, that worked. You have to, as an artist, you have to push yourself over the limit at times. And I think it's true. And make mistakes to learn from the mistakes. Mm-hmm. And everyone says, well, what would you change about your career and if you could redo the things you did and make it better? I wouldn't at all, because that's not the point.
Right.
That's not the point. You have to learn from them.
Right.
So, all that time went by. I applied myself and worked, and the stars aligned on The Office. And I got a chance to shine, of course, because of all these wonderful people I was working with. And again, it was an ensemble piece.
Right. Do you think that you can create talent through hard work, or do you think that that's just something you're born with?
I think intrinsically you have to have a nature, an artistic nature. You have to feel when it's right. I think people can teach you the rudimentary places. Stand here, say this, do it like this. But if you can't, deep within yourself, come up with a voice that's your own, no, it can't be taught. You can learn the craft. You can learn how to get really close to it and facilitate a pseudo performance, but it's not going to be the ones who are the John Malkoviches and the Robert Downey Jr.'s and the Jeff Bridges, where it just comes from someplace else,
Does it feel inauthentic in those situations? Can you feel like, oh, this guy's a poser? He's trying. He obviously puts the work in, but there's just something that's not quite right about him.
We see it all the time in television and film when people are sitting there and you can see them saying the lines. Mm-hmm. They look right.
Right.
It sounds right, but something in their eyes and something rings false. Mm-hmm. We all know this for a fact. And yet there's people who immerse themselves in roles. I mean, Meryl Streep, for God's sake, she immerses herself in a role. It's her.
Right.
It's real.
Right.
You can't teach that.
Yeah.
You can teach where to go, and you have to go through a practice, and you have to learn the craft. But I think, you have to have talent to go to the top, to be the cream.
And what about music? You'd apply the same?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Art, anything in the arts, absolutely.
Right. One of the things, and I've had this conversation numerous times with people, I think one of the things that people have kind of convinced me, like, you can't quite create it, is timing. And I think that applies both in acting and music.
Absolutely, because I don't think there's anybody out there that isn't aware of the posers, as you mentioned before, in popular music, who when their Accutune is pulled out on stage.
You always call it Accutune.
I do call it Accutune. What is it?
It's what is it?
I don't use it, so I don't need it. What is it? Acupane.
We'll call it Accutune.
What?
This is now the whiskey's kicking in.
No, it's window pane. It's window pane acid.
No, it's auto-tune.
Auto-tune.
Yes.
Let's go back and cut that out.
Well, we'll cut it out later. I can edit that out because that was a ridiculous conversation we just had about Accupane. That sounds like some sort of drug that you're given.
It
for,
did. The whiskey caught up with us,
Yes.
which is good. Okay, Accutune.
No, auto-tune.
Auto-tune.
Yes.
I think we've all seen the situations on the screen and during these live performances where someone's Accutune.
Auto-tune, right. Exactly.
With the exactly right. It's auto-tune. I think we've seen...
Is this take 4?
This is take 4. This is
All
take
right.
4. I think we've seen enough of these live shows where someone's auto-tune turns off and they just look blankly because they don't sound like they're supposed to on the record.
Right.
And everyone goes, "What the hell? We don't need any more of that."
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I it's hard for me to watch that stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to watch the formula, cookie cutter pops music that comes out with people now. You know, back in the '60s, you could listen to a record on the radio and you knew exactly who it was. Everyone sounded. Now they all sound the same.
You did, but was there still a pop formula back then?
There's always been a pop formula.
Like, would you say like the Partridge Family was a pop formula?
Sure, the Monkees were a pop. The Grassroots were a pop formula. The Beach Boys. Everybody were emulating the hits from before.
Right.
They were taking the stuff that they liked and they're putting it together. So therefore, whatever was working. So it was, without machines, a formula of a sort.
And I think that's funny because if you talk to almost any A&R at a record label, they'll tell you how they're looking for something different.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
But they don't want to lose their job, so they don't want to sign someone who's too different because that might actually be too much for people, and it might not sell.
I know. You
Yeah.
wonder how the people in Nashville sleep at night sometimes with that stuff that's coming out. And I don't mean to belittle the George Straits and the Garth Brooks, you know, and the people like that who are doing some amazing work still.
Right.
You know? It's just these faceless, and I don't begrudge these. I'm sure there's some really talented people, but if you can't get up there with your acoustic guitar or your piano, like Lady Gaga does, or Elton John, or James Taylor, and sit there and sell your song to an audience and emote, and get them in the palm of your hand, then what is it worth? You know, that's just Creed's humble opinion.
Right. Well, there's an actual algorithm out there. I mean, there's programs that are designed to predict whether a song can be a pop hit or not.
Right.
Right. So it's become to that point where it's almost mathematics.
You know what would be scary is that there would be the singer-songwriter algorithm where some young kid who doesn't know, he's tone deaf.
Right.
He can't really play the guitar. He comes up and just goes, and he just bangs away. And all of a sudden the computer's working overtime. Steam is smoke's coming out of it, and it makes this hit song from it. That would be really crazy.
I think we're 5 years away from that.
Very close to it, yeah.
It really could happen.
And now the people in Nashville are, really, does that exist?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's someone out there, their ears just peaked up.
Yes, can we do that?
Yeah. All right, let me ask you a question that's totally change of pace here.
All right.
And I'm asking you this because you've kind of hit all of these marks, all right, as a human being. If you could choose one thing, being content, rich, happy, or famous, which would it be?
Content.
Content. Why is that?
Then you can just live with yourself.
Right. I totally agree.
Good.
I like
Thank you.
the answer.
Thank you very much,
I
Eric.
like the
That's
answer.
fun. And good night, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, couple more.
Oh, okay.
We're just doing quick questions
All right,
now,
all right.
Okay.
And
So,
good night, ladies and gentlemen.
what's the worst part of your job that no one in their right mind would ever want to do?
Every
in
tour,
any of your jobs.
Every tour. I don't have any.
You don't have any bad parts of your jobs that no one would want to do.
If I had to bellyache about my life compared to other people's, it would be a sacrilege, you know.
Right.
I wouldn't do it. No.
I
I'm
love
a
that.
lucky guy.
I love it. All right, what's one tool or piece of equipment that you use for work you couldn't live without?
Well, a guitar tuner, because sometimes the acoustic of a room change. My bags, DI box.
Your DI box, yes.
That Gibson gave me, you know. My trusty Gibson guitar.
Right.
My Blues King. I can't go on the road without that, although I got my Martin fixed today. And big shout out to Renson Guitar in Studio City
There you go.
for keeping my axes up to date. You know, they're masters. Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys. All right. If you have $10,000 budget, and I'm asking this specifically because we're talking about a bare bones budget to release an album. It's already been mixed, mastered, and pressed. What do you spend it on to promote the album?
Wow. See, again, I'm not the business guy.
You're not the business guy.
I'm not the business
Is this when
guy.
you would come to me and ask me, where should we spend this $10,000?
I would, well, or Warren.
Right.
I'd probably go to Warren.
Warren.
I'd
yes.
go to Warren. I'd go to Warren and ask him, you know. because
And he'd be
he's-
like, that's not enough money.
it's not enough money to do it. I think probably what we're doing right now, you and I, going out on the road and playing these songs to the, we hope, adoring public. Seems that way so far.
It's been pretty good.
It's been pretty good with the reaction we were having.
Yeah.
Having them hear the songs, telling their friends. I think your ear to the street, word of mouth. If you can get a song that people hear and they tell people about it, that would be the best kind of publicity you could possibly have.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So just getting out and grinding away.
Getting out and grinding away, yeah.
All right. So knowing everything you know now, do you feel like following your passion is good advice?
Absolutely.
Great. What did your 21-year-old self do that you wouldn't be caught dead doing now?
Getting a mohawk.
Wow, you did? Did that happen, or now you would have?
No, it's something that people did, you know, that time.
Okay.
I wouldn't have done it, you know. Yeah.
All right. What did you think?
Or getting, I never got a tattoo.
That's true.
I had an earring for a while in the 70s.
Yeah.
I could wear that again. I'd be fine with that.
Okay, let me tell you an earring story
All
real
right,
quick.
please.
So I'm in high school, 16 years old, and I decide I'm going to get an earring, and I convince my dad to get an earring with me. And
Your dad?
yeah, my dad.
Oh my God,
So I
that's
convinced
incredible.
him to get an earring, and my dad is not. He's not hip at all. He's just. He's an accountant. You know, he worked for the housing authority.
Yeah.
He ended up running the housing authority in the county.
Right.
Great guy, nicest guy ever. But I get my dad to go get an earring with me, and I'm on the basketball team.
Why
at the
did he
time.
do this with you?
I don't know. I think it was a bonding experience. But I'm on the basketball team in high school at the time. I go to practice the next day, and my coach tells me, you got to take that earring out. So
What if he said, you have to take that hoop out? We're playing basketball.
that wouldn't make any sense. So he makes me take the earring out. I think I had it for a week, and my dad still has his earring from all these years.
You
But
didn't put it back in?
I couldn't. I kept trying to put it back in, but eventually the skin kept healing over.
Oh, my God. My friend Tony Barnes, who was a doctor up at Santa Barbara and a professor and was a teacher there.
Right.
His wife, Nora, was there with my wife, Joanna, and we used to hang out all the time and do nefarious things, you know, as it were, back in the days. And one day she said, you'd look so cool with an earring. And I said, well, which ear? She said, well, the left ear, because that's the straight ear.
Yes,
I said,
and
"No."
that's where I got mine too.
Yeah,
I think it's
exactly.
changed now, but
I don't
yes,
know.
the
You
right
could
ear
have
used
both,
to
you
be
know,
the gay ear.
But if you have both ears, are you bisexual? I don't know how that works.
Don't know.
It doesn't matter. So she, at that time, took a piece of ice and stuck it on both sides of my ear and held it there till it froze, and then just took this needle, this sewing needle,
Sewing needle, like
just a big, like an awl, like a leather awl that you do rough leather work with, and heated it over like a fire.
This sounds like a
And they were
romantic
chanting-
evening
They were
you guys
chanting,
were having.
and then pierced that puppy. She did a really good job, you know.
Really?
I've toyed with the idea of having it, but you know, I don't know. Why would I? I might have the earring back.
Yeah.
But it would be a hoop. Then I go play basketball.
yes,
Yes.
It didn't work for me, but maybe you can do it. All right. So, what did you think back when you were younger that you couldn't live without, but now realize it wasn't so important?
I had low self-esteem when I grew up in Corsica because there's nothing to compare it to until I went off to Europe. I realized that people had money. I never saw money where I grew up.
Right.
Didn't see it. Actually, I take it back. When I went away for my junior year of high school up at Lake Tahoe to work up in Tahoe, I had this. I met this girl, and we were dating, and her parents had this big house on a lake. And I thought at that time, if I could hit this house on this lake with this boat, that would make me very, very happy. But I just went up to Tahoe recently with my family, and I rented a really lovely house overlooking the lake with my granddaughter there and stuff. And I realized that's just silly, you know?
Right.
It's silly. It's just stuff, being content.
But the best part was your time with your family up there. If you were up there by yourself, it wouldn't have been the same, right?
Still, that's why people say, well, you should be traveling more. I used to travel all the time. Well, it's just a matter of who you're going to travel with.
Right.
You know, there you go.
Yeah.
Yes, Callie. Yes, Callie.
I love that she keeps putting in her input.
She does.
She agrees.
She does.
All right. So what's the one ingredient that you can point to that's allowed you to have this much longevity in this business?
Wow. I think it would have to be a form of self-discipline. Some people need trainers. Some people need to have other people to tell them. I've always been able to see what needed to be done. I saw in my mind's eye a clear vision of what exactly had to be done, even though I would go, oh, no, that's too much work. I would have to accept that voice. Thank you, Callie. I would have to accept that voice, and I'm trying to get profound and really like Morgan Freeman, but the dog is whining.
It was good.
It was really good. It sounded very Morgan Freeman, and the dog starts whining. That's okay. Committing to what, like we talked about that little inner voice before, committing to it and saying, okay, it tells me something that's going to be uncomfortable. I might be uncomfortable for a long period of time. I have to do this. Or you fucked up. You made these mistakes, and now you have to redeem yourself. And this is the work that's required to get you to where you originally thought you could be.
Right.
It may be the exact plan that you were supposed to have. It may be that you made a diversion, a detour along the line. Nevertheless, hopefully you'll still get to that final destination.
Hopefully.
If you apply yourself well and you do the work.
Right. All right. What's one book you've read that's changed the way you lived your life? I know you have a lot, but if there's one that really sticks out.
There's thousands.
All right, name a few if you'd like to. Because we've had these discussions quite a bit on the road.
You ask me the book thing all the time,
I love it because it really. Sometimes there's books you read, and I have a couple. There's one called Mindset by Carol Dweck, who's a professor at Stanford. That I think I told you. Did I tell you that one?
No.
It's the whole idea is there's a growth mindset and there's a set mindset. And there was a point I was just struggling, like it was after my, I was dealing with my divorce and everything, and I realized like I really hadn't taken the time over the past few years to try to improve. And I just kind of had been, I'd got to the point where I was like, this is where I am.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. I'm going to make sure my son's taken care of. And as long as that's okay, then I guess I'll be okay. But I had to kind of reevaluate and look at myself and say, I've got a lot more life to live and I need to keep growing. And that one kind of set me on a path that I've started reading a lot more over the past few years because of that one.
There's a book that my mother gave me when I was young,
Mm-hmm.
called Science of the Mind.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say Ernest Helms. I could be wrong.
Science of the Mind.
Science of the Mind, yeah. You'll hear a lot of this stuff. Autobiography of a Yoga, Paramahansa Yogananda. Life-changing for me. Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. In fact, all the Cormac McCarthy books. Pattern recognition affected me. Necromancer, Cryptonomicon. Right now I'm loving, as I told you before, Angle of Repose. Mm-hmm. Empire Falls, when I read that years ago. Wow. It was so funny.
Yeah.
So profound. I think it would also it would depend on what time in my life, because the time of my life, there are certain things that I need to hear, and I might not have the right book at that time. Whether the stars align up and I have the right book at the right time with the right information, that would be profound. There could be some great books that I've read that were really what I needed to hear 10 years later or 10 years before. So for me to even speculate on what would be the best book, I can't.
Right.
I could say that those books I mentioned before,
Yeah.
they had a profound effect on me. And you wonder sometimes, how does someone do that? How does someone go there and for 4 or 8 hours a day sit there and let their fingers just go and this stuff comes through? You know, I know what it feels like to have a song come out in 4 minutes.
Right.
I'm lazy, I guess.
No, I mean, when I was making music, I always felt like the best songs came out right away.
Yep.
And the ones that I had to struggle with and took hours and hours and I just kept trying to tweak it just never worked out.
No. All the faces, as I talk about, as you know, in my live show, came bam. I was just sitting there in front of the fire, and Joanna said, wow, who wrote that song? And I said, I think I just did, because it just came through so fast.
All the faces we see each and every day. When I get home at night, you're the face I need. And when my mind's absorbed,
That being said, I have gone back and read Blood Meridian again.
Mm-hmm.
I have gone back and read Science of Mind. I have gone back and read Pattern Recognition.
That's
William
one you
Gibson.
keep coming back to.
I do keep coming back to that, William. Something about that is so futuristic and yet it's so now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something about it touches me at a very, very, very deep level. And I'm not, and that's why I think it's so profound for me, is that I'm not able to articulate what it's doing to me.
Right.
I think that's what great art does.
Well, do you remember when a fan came up to you and was talking about what you'd said about the little screen
On all the faces.
on all the faces?
Yes.
And how profound. I mean, the guy marched right up to you, just said that and walked away, basically.
He didn't want a picture. He didn't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
He just said that was
a meet and
profound.
greet. Yeah.
He said that line was profound. It was ahead of its time, right? And he looked at me and he just nodded his head like this passes all understanding.
Right.
And then he walked away. And
Yeah.
we looked at each other. And the people were lined up to get autographs and stuff. And we were going, what the hell just happened? Why did you do that? Who said that?
You're like, you mean you don't want to ask about John Krasinski?
No.
He
what
had
about
such a profound.
Is Jenna Fisher nice or Angela Kinsey nice? And I'd say, what? That's what he wanted to say.
Right.
Yeah, that was weird, huh?
Well, that's what I talk about when I say your music touches people you don't even realize sometimes. How much you put it out there into the universe and you don't realize that it could actually affect someone where they're like, whoa, this is a game changer. This changed my life.
Well, I could go and say, okay, yeah, this is how I planned it, but no.
Right.
No, that's not the case.
Yeah.
You know darn well I just write the songs. you
Yeah.
know? Of course, I'm moved and appreciative.
Right.
But I'm not going to let it go to my head, and I'm going to keep writing songs. That's all.
Right.
That's all you can do is keep doing the work. As we talked about before, keep doing the work.
Right. Keep pushing.
That's right.
All right. So I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Now that we've been working together for a few years, I want your honest opinion
Yes.
on something. Okay. What's the one thing I should improve on to see significant growth in myself or my business in the next year?
Really?
I'm asking your opinion.
I think you should accept yourself as how good you are and have some confidence, and
Do you
never doubt that you can get the job done.
Okay. That's good. Do you think that I have a lack of confidence?
No, I don't at all. I think you just need more.
All right.
I don't think you have a lack of all. You're achieving all the things you are right now, but I think your future is much brighter than you even realize.
I appreciate that.
It's true.
Thank you. Do you think actually that you could?
And I think you've come out of this doldrums. I think you were in this. Maybe the doubt is not now. Maybe the doubt was before, and you're just now coming. Like me, everybody.
Right.
Everybody comes through the stuff where they doubt, and that's only intelligence. People who are so confident about what they do and know I'm great. They're not really that great.
Right.
The ones that are smart enough think about all the ramifications of what's going on. You're one of those. I believe I'm one of those.
Right. You are. Well, I mean, you think those people who are uber confident, do you think that they're selling themselves on that, or do they really believe it?
Yeah. I think they're hyping themselves up.
It's almost like they're covering up for their lack of self-confidence.
Exactly.
Huh. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what excites you most about your life right now?
Hearing the songs come back out of the speakers after I first recorded them. The other night I went over to a screening of, actually last night, a screening of this thing I did with Angela Kinsey, this short film. And I just did it as a friendship, because she's a dear friend of mine. I love her dearly. And
Right.
And helping her out into this part. And everybody laughed, intensely, on my part. And still gives me pleasure to make people laugh. I've always loved making people laugh.
Yeah.
It gives me pleasure.
Yeah.
And when my live shows, you see me just kind of gleaming when people are laughing at stuff, It's a gift, and it's also at the same time a reward.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I guess I've started to take ownership over your live show too, just in a
Yeah, and you
sense
should,
of like,
because you help so much.
Well, I guess, obviously I just want to see it go over well, but it's like, I do feel a sense of reward when it's like everyone's really laughing and they're enjoying themselves. Like, that's what we're out there for.
When we travel in the car and go from gig to gig to gig, you're my sounding board, You're my reference to did that work or that didn't work, And you're always coming up with great stuff, That's why I'm saying you may not understand how important you are to this process.
Yeah, well, we were talking kind of off air about just, I'm a booking agent, right? So
exactly.
So I go out on the road with you. I don't really consider myself a tour manager, but I do tour manage you. But I appreciate working with you because it does allow me to kind of tap into my creativity that I may not get to do as a booking agent. Because as a booking agent, my job is to basically call people and email people and try to kind of make everything line up and make the budget work. And, it's not fun. It's and sometimes I'm chasing money down from
Yes, you
providers,
are. Yes,
which you
are.
all know.
Yes, you are. Okay, let me ask you a question.
All right. That'd be great.
And I never have done this before. I don't think I have. When you're watching my show, and you've
Right.
seen it for many, many times, I think we played practically every state in the Union. We haven't gone up to Canada yet. We haven't
Yeah.
gone to Alaska or Hawaii.
No.
But we covered most of them,
I'd say
when-
we're probably in the 30s by now.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so we're a few
And then
away.
multiple cities in some states.
But yeah, because that's
So,
the way the logistics of travel go.
Yeah.
But we've covered a lot of the states.
we definitely have.
Now, when I'm doing my live show, what is the part of it that you look forward to and that you can kind of judge how the show is going from the audience reaction?
Wow. The part that I can judge.
Well, do you do because of what you've already seen?
Okay, I feel like the comedy almost always goes over pretty well, right? Like, there are a few audiences that are just kind of stiff that you can't, like, we'll have a conversation the next day and be like, we can't judge it based on that audience because they were a stiff audience, right?
Right.
Or maybe it's a seated
Well,
audience.
I should say I know that part of the thing. I got a built-in audience for that stuff, but
Right.
the musical part of it that you appreciate.
You
Say.
Okay. You know what it is? I think it's the ones where I could base the whole show based on the songs where you have a back and forth with the audience and a sing along. So I could base it on Rubber Tree.
Rubber Tree.
And which comes at the end.
Office theme.
The Office. I have to say, the Office theme has never failed, though. Right?
Well, of course it's a done deal.
But I'm saying, like, there hasn't been a show that, and now it's probably been 50 shows that we've done the Office theme.
Let me tell the listeners real quick if I could that one day I was sitting there, sitting around, and I was just kind of humming the thing, and I realized, oh my God, here's some lyrics. So I wrote lyrics for the Office theme. Mm-hmm. And I called Bob Thiel, who's part of the Scrantones, and I said, "Will this interfere with our special we're shooting up at the chapel? Will I get sued?" He said, "No. It has nothing. This song will have nothing to do with it."
Right.
So,
explain the special a little real quick.
The special is something we shot up in San Francisco at the chapel, and we played there a year before. Mm-hmm. And we figured they invited us back to play because the show went really well in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And we figured, hey, this is a great place to shoot. So, Eric, you went to work making it happen, and we shot 2 7 o'clock and a 10 o'clock show.
Right.
We did a show at the night before at a place close by. What was the name of that town?
We went to Petaluma.
Petaluma.
Yeah, we had a little run through, and Cale Bunker's helping us out with this.
Cale Bunker shot the stuff. So we shot 2 shows with 4 cameras, so we had 8 cameras set up. And so that's what the special was, So before we did the show with the Office theme, people love it. They really react to it. So I was sitting around with my buddy Ed Helms. He was over, and I was playing him the song. He said, "You're going to love this song." I'm playing it for him. He said, "Oh, you've got to do the ba ba da 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 da." I said, "No." He said, "Yeah, but you can do it. You can't do it when you record it, but you can certainly do it when you play it live." I'm like, "Oh yeah, of course I can." So we've been doing that now, and it's huge, right?
It's taking it to another level. Right. It's true.
It is
but,
true.
Okay, beyond the Office theme, though, I would say when you do Live for Today, and when people do really sing the La La's, like it kind of takes it to another level, and that's kind of earlier on in the show, so I can tell, okay, this is going to go the right direction.
That song, sometimes people go, la, 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 la.
Right.
La, la, and I don't have to say this to them. They just keep on going. They come in naturally, and they don't even know the song. These kids are too young, most of them.
I think there's a few people in the audience who know the song, and they kind of lead the way.
Well, maybe I'm poor-mouthing, as the people in the South would say.
It's a huge song.
Yeah,
it was a huge song.
Yeah, I know. I'm just poor-mouthing again.
But, okay, so that's a song, because it's early in the set, I could gauge, okay, this is how the rest of the show is going to go.
Not the sing-along, but the visceral emotional reaction when you feel people, they're galvanized emotionally, and they're zeroing in on what I'm doing.
Right.
What song? And you know this better than anybody, for sure.
Yeah, well.
Far more than I do.
Right.
Because I'm there. I can't be objective if I'm the object.
I'd say Rome.
Yeah, Down the Way of Rome. Mm-hmm. They really do. And Boxer in a Club.
Well, that's my personal favorite.
That's your favorite, yeah.
And those two I think are just so heartfelt. And I think even for a kid who might not even listen to that type of music, they might some of your fans might just listen to Britney Spears, or they might listen to Ariana Grande. Like, they might listen to Justin Bieber. You might not be their music choice at all.
Right.
But they come to your show, and a lot of times you'll have kids come up to you after and say, I'm a huge fan of The Office, but I really love your music.
Yeah.
And I had no idea.
That's the thing that I think is really rewarding, is they come in because of that comedy, and they leave telling me that they were impressed by the music. And that's probably why I continue doing what I'm doing.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's the nugget right there.
That's the nugget right there.
All right. One last short question.
Good.
If you could send a 140 character tweet that everyone in the world would see, what would it say?
It would probably be from the Frank Herbert film Dune. Mm-hmm. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me, and when it is gone, past, I will turn my inner eye to its path. Where the fear is gone, there will be nothing. Only I remain.
That's great.
That's Frank Herbert.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I actually did that to myself right before I went on and did the Halloween scene with Steve Carell, because my knees were shaking. They gave me this 6.5 page with him for the Halloween episode. Season 1, we only did 6 seasons, and 6 episodes rather. So right away in season 2, they threw the script on me and said, "This is it," and said, "Here you go." It was the Rubicon. I had to do it or die.
Yeah.
And apparently I passed the test, but that helped me through it. And I think everyone has to realize that fear is nothing that you can't deal with if you face it. Mm-hmm. If you allow it to just say, bring it on. And it just comes on you and you let it just wash through you. Is that all you got?
Right.
Because that's all it is. It's
Right.
it's a mind game.
I've realized in recent years when I really have something that's fearful, I'm kind of torn up about how I'm going to handle it, the quicker I deal with it, the quicker it goes away.
Yep.
The more you let it sit and fest inside of you, it just becomes a problem.
Absolutely.
And do you remember, okay, so I have a quote for you coming back at you.
All right.
We were listening to the audio book of Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art. Mm-hmm. Remember this in the car?
Vaguely.
Okay. Are you paralyzed with fear? That's a good sign. Fear is good. Like self-doubt, fear is an indicator. Fear tells us what we have to do. Remember one rule of thumb. The more scared we are of a work or calling, the more sure we can be that we have to do it.
Absolutely.
Right?
I do remember that now.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. You know, our trips on the roads, like we've had time to actually grow and learn from each other, and that's been great.
We've learned.
And I've learned a
we've
lot.
learned how to deal with the producers and the crowds and the engineers and the logistics of the club. We've also gotten a very simpatico working relationship, being on the road, traveling. We got a routine down now, and it's comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I would be hard pressed to find a better person to share the road with than you, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you,
I
sir.
feel the same way.
Thank you.
All right. Creed Bratton, everyone. Thank you.
Eric Abel, General Eric Abel, sir.
I hope you enjoyed our interview with Creed Bratton. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe on the podcast app or TuneIn or Stitcher or any platform that you use. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/the Indie Playbook. And please, please share it if you're enjoying and getting something out of the show. I'd really appreciate it. And we will be back next week. So tune in. Peace.